So today we're going to do a zombie, this is our next project, but we're going to do a zombie project. This is sort of just a fun little project for the end of the quarter. I'm not going to be putting it on this quarter, so you can kind of take your time with it. It's going to be just a quick little project, something fun to learn about layers and layer masks in Photoshop. You worked with them a little bit last time. So we're going to pick a picture of a celebrity. You can also do a picture of yourself if you'd like, but it's easier just to find a picture of a celebrity. I would do it with a clear, either sort of a clear background or a black background or a white background or some sort of solid color as the background. It doesn't have to be black or white. It's just easier that way, so that what we do to their face is not being distracted by like stuff in the background. So I'm going to go to File. Oh, this is QuickTime. I'm going to go to File, Open, and I have my images that I want saved into a folder on my desktop named Zombie, okay? So here in my Zombie folder, I found a picture of Beyonce that I want to use. I found some brains that I'd like to use for some texture. If you want to put it in a room, so if you want to afterwards select what you've done and put it in some sort of like haunted, yucky looking room, that's an extra little step you can do. I found some meat texture, some rust because it gives the appearance of peeling, and a skull, okay? So you can think about what textures will be good for you. So I'm going to open Beyonce first. And there she is. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the background by pressing Command J. And then I am going to create a, sorry, my phone is going off, a new layer mask on my layer, okay? And that's so that we can paint things on and off. And then I am going to open one of my others. So I like starting with the skull. I think that gives a good underlay to it. So I'm gonna go File, Open. Again, it's gonna take me right back to here. I am going to do my skull. And you can select it if you want. It might be easier to transform your skull, but we're gonna have it underneath so you don't have to. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna move it to Beyonce. So I'm gonna drag it up and then I'm gonna drag it down. All right, so now my layer, my skull is on top of my Beyonce layer. Take the opacity down. And then I would like to free transform it. So I'm going to, so this is different than transforming because you can make it all kind of wonky if you want. And I like that because it's not gonna fit her face perfectly. Well, okay, so now I say that and then it fits on there perfectly, but you can like adjust things in a little bit and up. You could even do, if you want to transform, you can go to Distort and you can kind of pull in things a little bit differently. So if it comes, see like her jawline is kind of out there, okay, and then her head is like up. I want her eyes like right in the middle of the skull like that. Maybe bring her down a little bit. All right. I'm just gonna play with it until I get it, you know, right-ish. So when I'm ready, I'm gonna change the opacity back up for now. And I'm gonna switch my layer on top. I'm gonna press return. And then I'm going to put this layer on top of it, okay? And I'm gonna go into my layer mask. I'm gonna paint Beyonce away a little bit. So I need to be in the black. I'm gonna go to my paintbrush here. I have like a funny kind of paintbrush. I also want you to use kind of a low hardness, okay? And I'm just gonna show you for the purposes of now, you can kind of paint away, you know, some of this here. So I have my Beyonce, and I can change the opacity of this layer a little bit too. Maybe take it down so it's not quite as harsh. You know, there we go. I really don't want to be able to see Beyonce's eye through it though. So maybe a little bit up. It's 90. I'm gonna go back in. I want to take her eyebrow out a little. Maybe get this a little here. So you have this. Oops. I was a brushing tool and I wasn't in the mask. See? Purrs. So I'm gonna brush this away. And you can figure out like different brushes. So there's just this, but you can look down and see, you know, some of these brushes are dispersed a little bit more. So it might like work for, and you can change the opacity of your brush. So like, you know, do a little bit more along the edges here. So it looks like, you know, it's peeling back a little bit instead of, you know, just a straight, like, hard line that you kind of don't want, okay? Might even take this opacity down just a little bit more here and kind of just slightly do it. Okay, so there I've got, you know, a little bit of that. And then I can use, you know, my other images here. I have my brains. I like this rust texture. So I'm gonna open that. Make sure you're in the move tool. And then I'm gonna bring this back down on top of Beyonce like that. I am going to place this. I might actually use this image a couple times. I like the sort of peely texture here. Okay, so again, I'm gonna place my Beyonce layer on top of that. So I'm gonna press return, place Beyonce on top of that. Oh, and then I want my skull on top of the rust. And then I'm gonna work in my layer mask again and start to paint away again some of this. Rust texture here. Actually, I want my rust texture on top. Oops, I'm out of my layer mask. All right, I like that. That looks cool. And blend those together. Right. I'm gonna wash some of that out. So just experiment with what you're doing here and kind of blending the two together and how you see them. I need to paint some of this back in because I can see too much of this skull, so I need to go back in and paint back in with my white. I'm gonna get a different brush. Make sure my opacity is up again. And I want to paint over it, so kind of make sure. So you guys painted a bunch with your, I kind of like the way that it kind of goes in her ear like that. All right. So just keep adding these textures and you can kind of see, you know, you can add a layer mask to that if you want. So maybe I'll add a layer mask to this and I can paint away just specifically on the skull. So if I want to paint away some of the skull, I can do that. I need my opacity. All right, and then I can get some of that rust texture back in. So you can make a layer mask for each of your items. I would actually highly recommend that. So I'll do a layer mask here for this too. And the layer mask button is just down here. And then you can paint away specifically at, you know, and you can blend these together. And then it looks like, you know, she is. I can paint that back away if I want, or I can toggle it and add back to it. Okay, it's up to you. So then once you have all this stuff, so I'm going to add like my meat or whatever, you can add like a tone to the overall picture if you want to kind of make it look a little bit more yucky. So you can add like, you could paint, if you want to go to your original here, you can paint kind of a greenish or grayish color over her to kind of make her look a little less healthy. You can also apply a filter to, let's see, go up. Photo filter. You can apply a filter to her if you want, and you could do like a greenish filter that'll make her look a little less healthy. You know, you can play with the density of it. You can work in the mask if you want to make her hair like not in the filter, that's fine. So you can make her look a little less healthy by adding a green filter to it. And make that filter go up above all of these. So the top one is the one that's going to show most. So you want to make sure if you're putting a filter on it that filter stays there up above everything. So if you add, like say, if I'm going to add, you know, the brains texture here, I know that's gross, huh? Then I want to make sure that brains goes under my photo filter. So I'm going to take my brains to Beyonce here. And I'm going to place it, you know, kind of on her brains there. And then I want to put it under. I want to put it under my photo filter, but I also want to put it under my first one. Okay. And then I'm going to make a new layer mask, and I can paint it in or out as I please. Go back to your paintbrush. You can paint it. I'm in the wrong one. Oh, not my layer mask here. So you can paint it in, paint it out as you please. You can add stuff, take stuff away. The reason why that was not working is because that was under there. So these brains are going to be layer mask under here. I'm going to paint them away. No, that's not working. So you can adjust your layer masks as you want. I'm going to put it right under her for now. Oh, that's why. And kind of blend them together. All right, there's the brains. You can have Beyonce kind of leaking from her brains a little bit. Obviously, that looks weird because the skull is on top of that, so you can adjust your layers as needed. So put the brain on top of the skulls. Make your skull opacity a little bit less. Play with them as you go, you know, whatever you need on top. And then you can blend those together. So, but, I'm turn that off and on. So, looking back at my mask, you can also turn these like off and on. There you go. You can turn them off and on as needed to see like what you painted in and what you painted out. Paint this out, paint that back out, and then go back in and add in what you want with the brains. So toggle that and add this a little bit. A little bit of yucky brains here. Maybe have your opacity of your paintbrush be quite a bit less, so it looks like it's kind of coming out, but not a lot from her head. So you decide what you want yours to look like, and then save it as a JPEG and turn it in. If you would like to cut her out and put her in some sort of, you know, gory, scary background, that's fine. And it doesn't obviously have to be Beyonce. You pick the person that you're going to do. All right?